Hi everybody and welcome to week 14 of Poppa's Picks, brought to you by FantasyDonks.com, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know to start playing daily fantasy football. Hi, I'm Sean Big Poppa Williams, and like usual, we'll be giving you a rundown of the plays this week in daily fantasy football. We're going to continue to use DraftKings' pricing as our basis for the plays, and without further ado, let's get started as usual with quarterbacks. And the number one quarterback I have for you this week on the board is Aaron Rodgers versus Atlanta. His price tag is $9,800. Look, he's outrageously expensive, but he's on fire, and he gets the Falcons at Lambeau Field. If you can afford him and any of his weapons, pay up for them this week and buy them up as much as you can. The number two quarterback I have for you this week, and he's quite a bit cheaper, is Matt Stafford versus Tampa Bay. He's $7,900. Stafford put up 25 points plus last week and should continue his big games against Tampa Bay. The Bucs are bad at defense, and their offense has the ability now to score points, which means that the Lions are going to have to score points to stay in this one. I like Stafford to have a good game this week. The number three quarterback I have for you this week is Ryan Tannehill versus the Baltimore Ravens. He is $7,300, and Tannehill is coming off of a subpar performance versus the Jets. He and Roethlisberger both terribly underperformed against that Jets team. I don't understand it. He should be able to bounce back this week against the Ravens, who are bad against the pass and got lit up for 380 plus yards last week in the air by Phillip Rivers. I like Tannehill, maybe not to have almost a 400-yard throwing performance, but hopefully he'll hit the 300-yard mark and sprinkle in a couple touchdowns there, and Tannehill more than pays off a $7,300 price tag. The fourth quarterback I have for you this week is that of Shaun Hill at Washington. He is $5,500, and Shaun Hill had a nice 22-point plus outing last week, but they were thumping the Raiders so bad that he didn't really get to see how far he could go and how many points he could put up. I think he has a chance to have a better game than 22 points. I'm not sure that this is a week where he exceeds 22 points, but I think he can at least hit that 22-point mark against a porous Washington secondary. I like Shaun Hill this week as a play once again. The number five the play I have for you at quarterback this week is Poppa's risk-reward play, and that is Brian Hoyer versus the Indianapolis Colts. He's $5,200, and let's just be honest, Hoyer's job is on the line, and they're playing the Indianapolis Colts, which means Hoyer should have to throw the ball a ton. If he can perform, the job will remain his. This is one of those, the pressure's on him situation. I like Hoyer to come out and have a really good game, throw a few touchdowns. If he doesn't, and if I'm wrong on this, his dreams, as well as your fantasy teams that you play him on, will be destroyed this week. I like Hoyer as the risk-reward play, but just keep in mind there is the risk that he gets pulled early if he looks bad, and you lose out on all those points to Johnny Manziel. With quarterbacks wrapped up, let's move right along to the running backs. And before I get to the running backs I have picked for you, I just want to point out Le'Veon Bell and Arian Foster are great plays this week with great matchups, but their price is just absurd on the sites. That $9,400 and $9,300 respectively. If you can figure out how to roster one of these guys and not cripple your team in the process, please feel free to do it. I will try to still squeeze one of the two of them, if not both of them, into a couple lineups here or there. But for the most part, I'm going to be fading the two superstars this week and try to piece together running backs that have almost as good upside, but are priced way better. The first running back with that caveat is Eddie Lacy. He's $7,800 versus the Atlanta Falcons. Lacy has had big games in his past, and the Falcons' run defense is hot, wet garbage. We know I always love to pick players against that Falcons' run defense, and barring injury, they always pay off. The number two running back I have for you this week is C.J. Anderson versus Buffalo. He carries with him a $7,100 price tag. and his matchup is bad on paper, which is why I like it. I think most people are going to fade this game from the running back position just because it's a terrible matchup on paper for him against Buffalo's stout run defense. However, he has the ability to catch a lot of balls, and Buffalo ranks near bottom of the league in attempts given up to pass-catching running backs. I think that Peyton Manning's running back is always in play just because of Peyton Manning's ability to read defenses. Put that into the fact that he can catch a lot of balls as well. I like C.J. Anderson at the $7,100 price tag this week. The number 3 running back I have for you, and to be honest, this might be my favorite running back play of the week, is that of Joique Bell versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at $5,500. Joique put up a 25-pointer last week, and this week gets to play the Bucs in Detroit. I think that the Lions remembered that they need to rely on Joique Bell running the ball effectively to give Stafford more time to throw the ball. In combination with the fact that he's playing in porous Tampa Bay run defense, I think Joique Bell makes a great play at $5,500 and should exceed that 20-point line once again, paying off his value and allowing you to stud up at wide receiver or quarterback and not feel the effects. The number 4 running back I have for you this week is that of Marion Grice at $4,100. Look, if Andre Ellington is out, this is a great play against the Chiefs' run defense, who has been getting thrashed recently on the ground. I will continue to provide updates as to the status of Andre Ellington this week because I like the Marion Grice play so much. Also, for my next pick, I'll give you injury updates for him as well. And that brings us right along to the number 5 pick at running back, which is Poppa's risk-reward play at the running back position. And that is Terrence West at $3,800 versus the Indianapolis Colts. Look, he had a bad fumble last week, and that has him in the doghouse with the coaching staff. But Kroll is questionable in this game with a hip injury and is yet to practice. At most, Kroll has just been sitting on the stationary bike, pedaling away. If Kroll is out, West makes a great value play against a bottom 10 run defense in Indy. And we've seen running backs gash Indy in the past. I like Terrence West to bounce back from the bad fumble last week and put up a monster, especially if Kroll's out. That $3,800 price tag is really sexy when you put into the factor that he may be the workhorse back this week for the Browns. With running backs all wrapped up, let's move right along to the wide receiver position. And the number 1 wide receiver I have for you on the board this week is Emmanuel Sanders at $7,900 versus Buffalo. Sanders had a down week last week against the Chiefs. I would look for him to rebound very quickly against and get back to his 20 points plus mark against the Buffalo secondary that does like to give up points, especially to wide receiver number 2s. I think that Emmanuel Sanders makes a real sexy play this week at $7,900 and is the first stud outside of the super high price studs. I think Emmanuel Sanders is a great play for you. The next play I have for you at wide receiver is one that I really like, and that's Odell Beckham Jr. at $7,700 at Tennessee. Look, his floor seems to be around 15 points or so, and the kid has a ceiling of going 40 plus. And and he gets a matchup against a shoddy Titans secondary that just got lit up by Ryan Fitzpatrick and surrendered over 40 plus points performance to DeAndre Hopkins. This matchup is so juicy. Odell Beckham's on fire. I love the Odell Beckham Jr. play against Tennessee. The number 3 wide receiver I have for you this week is that of Kelvin Benjamin at $6,500 at the New Orleans Saints. The Saints secondary is bad, and Benjamin is a beast, and has had multiple 20-plus point games this season. I would look for him to have another one of those 20-plus point efforts against the Saints team in what is a must-win situation for both of these teams. Keep in mind, Carolina wins. They're still in the divisional race in this dumpster fire division, and if the Saints can win, they can distance themselves further and try to lock up their division hopes of making the playoffs, because a wild card won't do it with their terrible records in that division. The number 4 wide receiver I have for you this week is Doug Baldwin at Philadelphia. He's $4,400. Now, I realize Doug Baldwin hasn't had but a couple of 20-plus point games, but the pace of play and the Eagles' ability to score in this game should increase Baldwin's value significantly. And Baldwin has had some decent games, like I said, in the past. He could put up a monster if the Eagles force the Seahawks into a shootout this weekend in Philly. I think that's what's going to happen, as the Seahawks defense looks completely different on the road, and we saw the Eagles thrash what was a decent pass defense last week in the Cowboys. I think that the Seahawks are going to be forced to throw, and that Baldwin is going to put up 20-plus points this week, and at a $4,400 price tag, that's going to reward you dividends. The number 5 wide receiver I have for you this week as Poppa's risk reward play at wide receiver is Stedman Bailey, and he is $4,300. He is at Washington. His stat line last week was 5 balls for 100 yards, and basically what was, if you watch the game film of that game, a half of football. If the Rams really have gotten their offense going, he could be in for a big game against the porous Washington secondary. And I think this Rams team is motivated for the last half of the season and going to prove that they are better than what everybody thinks they are and win some more games. I like Stedman Bailey in this game, and I think he'll pay off $4,300 without a problem. Now that we've got receivers wrapped up, let's move right along to the tight end position. The number 1 tight end I have for you on the board should be a surprise to a few people after his terrible outing last week, and that is Jimmy Graham versus Carolina at $6,500. Look, I have a gut feeling and nothing more, but that gut feeling says you want to own Jimmy Graham and play him this week off of his 0-catch, 0-target performance last week. Like, seriously, New Orleans, how do you not throw at least one pass to your best weapon and the best tight end in football? I'm confused by what the Saints did last week, but I think Jimmy Graham answers back with a monster this week. Like I said, I have no data to support this. It's just a gut feeling. The number 2 tight end I have for you this week is that of Antonio Gates versus the New England Patriots, and he is $4,700. Look, I think Gates will be the most heavily owned tight end in fantasy football this week, as I've seen him talked about on various shows and bantered about on the blogs and on Twitter. He has a good matchup, his price tag is right, and he's had some decent games this season. I just don't think Antonio Gates has the monster performances that he used to have, and I'm going to fade the Gates play, as I think most of the community is going to be on him. The number 3 tight end I have for you this week is that of Heath Miller. He's $4,600, and they're at the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati is bad versus the tight end. They're actually epically bad versus the tight end. And there's some interesting other factors in this game. First, both teams need this win to stay in the division race in the AFC North. Second, in division games, oftentimes tight ends tend to be stuck as the windows get tighter in those rivalry games, and so the tight end position seems to it seems to go for a lot of points in those matchups. I like both of those factors and think that the Pittsburgh offense is finally starting to click again. I like Heath Miller at $4,600 this week. The number 4 play I have for you tight end this week is is a sneaky play, and that's Travis Kelce at $4,500 at Arizona. Most of you are probably rolling your eyes at me when I mentioned Travis Kelce. You're not alone. The fantasy community has been let down by Travis Kelce and the Kansas City Chiefs offense one too many times, in my personal opinion. I think because of this, his own percentage is going to be extremely low this week. And that could mean that if Kelce has a performance that he's capable of, that you're ahead of the curve, especially at a $4,500 price tag. I like the risk here, and at some point, Kelce and this Chiefs offense have to break out of their slump. I think this is the week that they do it with their back against the wall at Arizona. I think Travis Kelce puts up a monster. The number 5 pick I have for you this week at tight end is Poppa's risk-reward play at tight end is Kyle Rudolph at $3,300 versus the New York Jets. Look, Kyle is back. He looks healthy. He looks good. He caught a touchdown pass last week, but he only caught 2 passes as a whole. Look, he has the ability to put up a beast performance, but a rookie quarterback and limited reps between the rookie quarterback and himself may limit his production. However, I think that Bridgewater is going to realize that he has a really good option and Kyle Rudolph, and I see a few more catches this week, and hopefully that touchdown again, and perhaps Kyle Rudolph hits that 15-point plus mark for him being at tight end this week. I like Kyle Rudolph in this matchup. And with that said, we wrapped up Poppa's picks for another week. Remember, as always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to get a hold of us at fantasydonks.com, or you can reach me personally on Twitter at Big Poppa Debate. That's BIGPOPPADB and the number 8, and I will answer any and all fantasy questions that you have. Here's to having a good week in fantasy football, week 14 of the NFL season. Good luck, everybody, and let's win some money.